And I am live. I have a guest coming on. I'm running a little bit late. I figured I would go live to stick to the schedule while I wait for our good friend Sam from the Source podcast. Anyway, folks, of course, welcome back to another episode of Blue Collar Game Day. I'll jump into Thursday night while I wait for Sam to get here. Thursday was an interesting game. Cardinals looked good. Cardinals won handedly, but at the same time, I don't want to take too much away from the Cardinals. They played a good game. This was a really close game until Andy Dalton threw two pick sixes with under 2 minutes to go in the half. With these back-to-back pick sixes. Sometimes that's the other team hands you the game. Now that's away from the Cardinals. The Saints handed them the game, and they took him. What we did see in that game, one of the interesting things was Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury yelling at each other on the sidelines. Kyler seemed a little frustrated. Play calling or something. I don't make a huge deal out of sort of things. It's not. This happens. Emotions get in the way in football games. These guys aren't always going to see eye to eye. And here he is.
Hey, how you doing? 1 second. Sorry, my for some reason you're freezing up. Let's see. Oh no. All right. Let me try to reload into this thing. Can you hear me?
Sam, what's up, buddy?
All right,
Hey,
how we doing?
look at that. The broadcast.
I can hear you.
So we just. Not bad. So somehow we didn't even lose any viewers while we were just completely off here for a couple of minutes there when the broadcast didn't end.
Had a loyal fan base, Steve.
I guess that's how much pull I have over the people is they don't even leave when
Hey,
the show's
people
not
don't
on.
leave the general.
There goes Sam, frozen again.
God damn it. Oh, I'm getting upset now. I'm getting upset now. Hello? Well, let's see. See if anyone can tell me if it's on my end or not. Can anybody tell me if it's me? Can you hear me? Looking in the comments, don't see anything. Can anybody tell me if it's me? Check 1, 2.
Right.
Check 2. Steve, can you hear
Here we
me?
go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Oh my God. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. All right.
Woo!
Now me and Sam talk football 7 minutes into the show.
There we go. It only took a few.
Right on fucking schedule. Somehow still have viewers.
Listen, it is what it is. Technology is never our best friend.
Yeah, technology. Everyone knows me and technology don't mix well. So
Yeah,
I was talking.
for me.
I was talking about Thursday night real quick before you came on. So good win by the Cardinals. I don't want to take a lot away from them, but it's also kind of a game that I think the Saints handed to them when you throw 2 pick sixes with under 2 minutes to go and a half.
I mean, especially when you're looking at a game that ends by 8 points. It's not like, after that they got blown out and the offense for Arizona, the offense was decent for Arizona, but at the same time, it's an 8-point game and there are 2 pick sixes you throw. Like that's directly correlating to the final score. So I guess you give Arizona's defense credit, but at the same time, like one of those balls was tipped up in the air and run in. It seems like something that, like, if they hadn't won that game, you'd be asking a lot more about them. So it's more like
absolutely.
They were handed this game, and if they didn't take it, then there was going to be a problem.
Yeah. So I don't want to take away credit for them for taking the game that when it was handed to them, because sometimes that's all football is. Sometimes that's all sports are. Take the opportunities that the other team gives you. But at the same time, you're right. Is you get those 2 pick sixes like that. I mean, you're supposed to be better than the Saints. So they probably should have won more. I don't go too much into all that. Before we go into game picks, I actually did not make a banner for this. The Christian McCaffrey trade to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Which was a second, a third, and another pick that they gave up.
I think it was a second, third, fourth, and fifth, if I remember right.
Yes. Okay. I think that's right. So I think that's a great haul for Carolina for McCaffrey with his injury history. Everyone's talking, how did they not get a first-round pick? McCaffrey's a great player. He's been hurt every year.
If you can spin a first-round pick for any running back, you're a genius in the front office. The shelf life for running backs is so low that most teams don't consider it worth it to trade for a guy who will have for maximum 3 years at full health.
That's what I mean. I was going to say we don't see teams draft running backs in the first round often anymore because they feel like you can get that value later on for what you said the shelf life of running back is. Sort of trade a first round pick for a guy as good as he is. Like I said, CMC is hurt just about every season. It's not a knock on the players, but it's going to affect what you give up for him.
Yeah.
So I like that. I love that haul for Carolina, especially they desperately needed draft picks after what they've done to themselves the last few years in that department. And I like the trade for San Fran, but I think he's a great player to add to that offense. But I think I'd like that trade a lot more if San Fran already had pieces like quarterback figured out.
Yeah.
Now you've given up so much in the past couple of years to get Lance, who, like, yeah, he's hurt right now. He hasn't shown that he's going to pan out. And now you gave up all this to get McCaffrey. Well, you still might need a quarterback, and you've put yourself into basically they're at Super Bowl or bust territory in the next few years, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to go off of. I like this trade a lot more for Carolina than I do for San Francisco, just purely based off of the fact that, and it has nothing to do with the picks. You know, San Francisco has they have their strategy, they're moving with it, and they've shown, and this is where it really gets weird to me. They've shown that they can draft very good rushing talent late in the draft. Now, I understand a lot of that is attributed to Kyle Shanahan's running scheme, but that scheme's still in place. So
yeah.
Was the problem with this team really how much success the running backs were having? Because to me, the problem was, first of all, last week against the Falcons, they were missing 3 out of their 4 starting defensive linemen and like 3 starting defensive backs. Their injuries are killing them. That's not going to get changed by trading for Christian McCaffrey. And the quarterback play. And while that might help Christian McCaffrey might help that a little bit by becoming that check down option. As you said, this kind of shows that they're Super Bowl or bust. They don't have a first-round pick or second-round pick for the next year or two, I believe. And I just wonder, is this the move that makes them a Super Bowl team? Because, yes, it makes them better, but does this really put them over the top? I just don't see that being the case. Maybe
I don't. I don't see it putting them over. I don't see it putting them over the top. Not this year.
Yeah, and then the question becomes, then why do you make that move?
No, well, I mean, like, let's say all of a sudden next year, maybe Lance actually looks like the guy that San Francisco thought it would be. Hey, shit, maybe they look like geniuses.
Maybe.
I
wonder when is McCaffrey's contract up?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like that's got to play a role in why they dealt him. I would imagine it would be in the next year or two.
I'm going to look it up right now. For me, it would be you need to win by the end of that contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
4
years, $64 million. He's tied in through 2025, but there's a potential out at the end of 2023. So he could actually be leaving at the end of next year.
And here's the other part is that the cap hit goes up a lot next year as well.
Oh, yeah. That's when I think he had
his salary next year is $11,800,000. His salary this is $690,000.
Yeah.
The cap this year, that's the cap hit this year is $690,000. The cap hit next year.
That's why Carolina did it, is because he had this extension that was going to kick in, and they didn't want to pay it. And now San Francisco is going to pay it unless he takes the out after next year, which I can't imagine a running back deciding that he doesn't want to make $12 million a year. So they've got him until 2025. So that's the window.
Yeah. And so back to like we were saying about giving up the draft picks, you brought up the injuries. Depth is another thing that this team is missing. And depth can be helped a lot by having second, third, fourth round picks, because that's what you get with those picks.
I mean, you'd know that better than anybody as a Pats fan. That's, the Pats have thrived on those mid and late round acquisitions that become huge depth pieces for championship teams. It's like a tried and true formula.
Wait, Belichick can't draft though.
Apparently, Cole Strange was. Everyone trusted Sean McVay on Cole Strange instead of the guy who has experience back to 1971 working in an NFL organization.
Yeah, over the guy who's number 2 all time in wins.
The dude has seen like 3 or 4 different wars as the head coach, as an official employee in the NFL organization, and we're still doubting the things he does. I can't understand that.
Yeah, I can't figure that one out either.
Say hi to Mom.
Oh, look at that service right there.
Well, I was at a wedding last night. We went to like a family wedding. So I'm out here on Long Island staying with the family right now. And she's very concerned about my nutrition. So I got a smoothie here to get me through my Sunday streams. So shout out, Mom.
Ask what you were sipping on. I've got black coffee in a Wicked Pisser cup.
A Wicked Pisser cup. Is that the most Boston thing I've ever heard, possibly?
So we'll run into the game picks for this week. Dude, I feel like I've said this every week this year. Not a great slate.
No, it's not. I felt like the week 1 slate was great, and then after that,
yeah, pretty much, yeah. All right, so I'm really glad you're on with this game. So we got the Giants going against the Jaguars today. Jacksonville's favored here by 3 points. And I'm trying to figure out why Jacksonville is favored over the Giants after the Giants just beat Baltimore.
So, funny story. I think I might be the only Giants fan who doesn't think we're going to win this game. So I like to create a little cheat sheet every week for the NFL for some statistical stuff. And I like to credit Ralph Michaels from Wager Talk because he does it for college football, and I'm using his same format for the NFL. But when you look at this, in terms of yards per game, Jaguars have a better differential. They're better offensively. They're better defensively. In terms of yards per play, they have a better differential. They're better offensively. They're better defensively. In terms of points per game, they are better offensively. They have a better differential, and they're worse defensively by 2 ranks. Like the Giants are 7th and the Jags are 9th. The Jags have also allowed fewer sacks, and the turnover margin is around the same. It's 2-0 for the Giants.
Okay.
So looking at this, and then when you look at what I know is true, which is that Jacksonville is a much improved defense this year consistently, especially on the run defense side, that's going to force a lot of the pressure onto Daniel Jones on the road in Jacksonville against a pretty good secondary with some revamped pieces. And the big problem for the Jaguars have been giveaways, and the Giants defense has been really bad at forcing turnovers. So for me, I look at this game and I think the line's exactly right. A lot of people are like, oh, well, how does this happen? You know this, but you have to look at more than record. And the fact of the matter is the Giants' strength of schedule rating is 27th. Jaguars is 18th. So the Jaguars have played tougher teams. And they've also been in the lead against some pretty solid teams and just blown it late because of turnovers, like that game against the Eagles that they lost by 8, even though they were up by like 2 scores in the third quarter. So It's not just results, it's also the process. You hear a lot of coaches talk about that over the course of the week in press conferences. And listen, I'm rooting for the Giants. I'm always going to root for the Giants, but I'm not as confident in this game as a lot of Giants fans are. I think we're going to end up losing. I will, if I had to take a pick, gun to my head against the Giants, this would be the week to do it.
All right. Well, so I'm actually taking the Giants in this game.
All righty.
I've already placed a bet on them.
Go Big Blue.
I made extra money this week, so I was, I don't know if I said I was feeling lucky at first, and then I was like, wait, no, I just worked a ton of hours and had extra money.
Listen, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that even though I'm not making a play on the game because I'm not going to bet against the Giants, I do have your standard bing bong parlay down, just a little $10. Giants, Jets, Yankees, Rangers. Just because this is probably the last time I'm going to be able to do that. After,
Yeah. Okay. Sense, yeah.
So might as well throw one down for a little $10 bet. It's like plus 950.
That was fun. We just got to make fun of the Yankees on my football show. I always appreciate it.
I figured I'd toss you a bone before everyone. Yeah, everyone's making fun of me anyway. I might as well get out ahead of it.
Yeah, that is such a win for me.
Well, listen, you invited me on your show. I gotta give you something.
But so I took the Giants today. I like what Dable's doing over there.
Coach,
no, they haven't played a great schedule, the Giants, and they have struggled in some of these games. But they're winning. They're not collapsing on themselves as we're used to the Giants doing. Yeah. So I'm throwing you a bone here. I'm complimenting your team.
I throw you a bone, you throw me one back. This is it makes nice conversation.
Jones hasn't looked superb, and he's made a couple of bonehead throws, which like we're used to, but not at the rate that he used to do. Jones has looked more composed to me.
He hasn't made one of those throws since the Carolina game, I gotta say.
Yeah. He's looked more composed to me. I like the Dable hiring because one of my things was I think we have to credit coaching somewhere in Josh Allen's turnaround in his career. And if we're going to credit a coach, I think that coach is probably Brian Dable.
And I think that's what a lot of Giants fans were hoping for when he came over. Not obviously Daniel Jones isn't Josh Allen, but they were hoping for okay, let's get a turnaround.
And he's looked more composed. Saquon's looked good. They've managed Saquon well, too, I've thought. They're not overloading him. So hopefully he stays healthy. He's also on my fantasy team. I do. That's it. I like what Jacksonville's doing. I like the Peterson hiring. They got some young talent there. It is going to be. I think it will be a tight game, but I like the Giants here. I think they're just playing with some resiliency, I guess.
They absolutely are, and I think also a lot of credit has to go to offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. For anyone who's really seen the film on all these games, I'm sure you've watched a little bit of it yourself. They've really put Saquon in a lot of situations that are much more unique than he's been in past years. Past years, our offensive coordinators have gone run the ball up the middle, then occasionally one outside. He's running wildcat quarterback runs. He's running jet sweeps. He's getting screen passes. They're really opening up the field for him without him having to do it for himself, which is both good for his injury history because it makes it less likely that he's running into a pack of 4 or 5 guys who are 300 pounds. And it also gives him more freedom to work in open space, which is what the Giants are obviously hoping for.
Yeah. So then we've got Cowboys and Lions today. Cowboys are expecting Dak Prescott is going to play today. It's Cowboys' favorite 6.5. I got to take the Cowboys with the spread. I actually just saw before we started trying to go live. Your tweet on the game, and Detroit has one of the best offenses. They score points, but they have a bad defense and not a very intelligent coach.
It's one of the worst defenses that I've seen in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and it's bad.
There have been some bad ones. But they're 32nd in almost every single statistic. It's pretty remarkable. It's more, how when people go over 7 on a parlay or something, and someone's like, "Oh, that's almost as impressive as going 7-0." It's almost wow, you guys really, the consistency to be last in every single stat is almost impressive in a weird way.
Yeah. Their defense is just bad, and I mean, obviously the offense, while they're good, when they played a good defense like New England, they weren't.
Yep.
Um, Dallas, same thing, good defense in Dallas, and Dallas hasn't had one of those in a long time. Dallas has a good defense this year.
Yeah. And I think that something interesting to note is that the Patriots game was really the first time that the Lions had played an elite defense. And I know people are going to look at the Eagles game and say, what about the Eagles? Obviously, I've been high on the Eagles, since preseason, but that game, the Eagles defense was not what the Eagles defense has been for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I'm looking at that game and I'm looking at Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave giving up 10 yards a carry. I look at that as more of a fluke. And they played the Commanders. The Vikings have an okay defense. The Seahawks defense is almost as bad as theirs. As soon as they played a very good defensive mind in Bill Belichick, because the Seahawks don't have one, the Vikings don't have one, Commanders, don't tell me Jack Del Rio is a good defensive mind, please. And maybe the Eagles. But once they played a good defensive mind in the Patriots, they couldn't score. And now, first of all, Jared Goff is very bad under pressure. The Lions have done a good job of keeping him away from that situation. But if there's one thing learned about Dallas and that defensive line, you're not going to be able to keep your QB away from Micah Parsons the entire game. It's not going to happen. And Jared Goff is 29th in completion percentage under pressure. So when I'm looking at that, to me, it's just with Dak Prescott coming back as well, I just don't necessarily see where the Lions are going to come through in the situation. Like, Dak is back. Dak is great against man defense. The Lions run the most man defense of any team in the NFL, despite the fact that their corners can't cover. I don't understand why they continue to do it. But because of that, they have the worst pass defense in the league. And Dak Prescott is now going up against this man defense, which, by the way, in his career, he's better against man than he is against zone. I don't see an area where Detroit has the advantage, where the Lions have the advantage here, really, at all. So I'm going with the Cowboys, as much as it pains me to bet on the Dallas Cowboys, because that means I have to root for them to win.
Yeah. Next, we've got the Ravens against the Browns. Ravens favored by 6.5 here. I'm going to take the Ravens to win this. I don't like spread. I don't like spread in divisional rivalries. I just don't.
Same.
Cleveland. Cleveland's a better team than New England. I think even playing. With that said, Cleveland can't stop. They're very bad against the run, and who's pretty good at running the football?
Baltimore Ravens.
This guy Lamar Jackson who's all right at running the football.
He's decent, I've heard.
Yeah, he's
okay.
A bit of talent, yeah. So yeah, just based on that, I'm going to take the Ravens. So
yeah,
I think they outscored Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, at a risk of becoming redundant and just taking the same plays, unfortunately, I have to continue the trend. I also have Baltimore in this game. I think these are two teams that are in similar spots. Cleveland has lost 3 straight games they should have won. Baltimore's lost 3 total games, all of which they should have won when you look at the leads that they had. Both teams are 2-4 against the spread. They've only played 1 game against a division opponent, which they both won. But here's where the teams differ for me. It's the run defense and the run offense. And the thing is, Cleveland's offense is the most one-dimensional offense probably in the league. If they can't run the ball, they're not going to win. And that's kind of one of the things that we've seen. I hate to go back to this, but the Patriots do really well against the Browns. 2 years ago, they beat the Browns 45-7. This year, they beat them again quite convincingly. teams that can figure out how to shut down the run. Bill Belichick's always going to figure out what the best offensive player is on the other team and try to shut them down. If you can shut down a one-dimensional offense, there's nothing else that's going to come from it.
So someone can stat check me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the numbers. I believe Nick Chubb going into the game was averaging 4.7 yards per carry, and last week averaged 3.4 yards per carry against the Patriots. That doesn't sound like a huge amount, but when you factor that in
per play,
yeah, that adds up. And like you said, when you're as one-dimensional of an offense as Cleveland is right now, and you know what, Brissett, he's a fine backup.
He's a game manager, but when you ask him to do more than that,
that offense and him aren't going to do well if they can't run the ball.
Yeah,
he's not going to be the same if he can't drop back on play action. It sounds cliche. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Also, the Ravens run a lot of man, and Brissett struggles against man. And the Ravens are one of the only teams that can outrun the Browns. They're first in yards per carry. The Browns are fifth, so they're going to beat them at their own game. I just don't know how it works out for Cleveland. So,
yeah, and that's again, we're all we're talking about here is running the ball. That's another reason I'm not taking a spread in this. Because
I have Baltimore minus 6.5. Simply because I think that they're going to be fired up after last week's loss, and the fact that Jacoby Brissett, even though they're not going to get pressure on him because that's been their big problem, Brissett's 28th in clean pocket completion percentage. And Cleveland also runs a bunch of cover 3 defense, which Lamar Jackson is above league average against. And Cleveland is pretty bad against inside zone runs, which Baltimore loves to do. So because of that and the fact that Baltimore's third in takeaways, Cleveland's 21st in interception percentage, I think they can escape by a touchdown. But I'm only putting 1 unit on it because, as you said, I hate divisional spreads this large.
Yeah, I can see that. So then we've got the Packers and the Washington Commodores. It's the worst name in football.
The Commies.
Beating the dead horse. Commanders is the worst name in football.
I actually preferred football team, if that was even possible.
So did I.
At least that was kind of like funny. They're like, we are the football team. It's like, okay. I guess that's kind of humorous, but this is just like, have you seen that music video the fans tried to make where it's like, left hand up, who are we, the Commanders? And it's like, you're really forcing your fans to like create terrible songs because they are trying to find a way to cheer this team on.
Yeah.
And they can't do it.
Well, the thing that's baffling to me is that the name was right there for Washington. The Washington Sentinels, just like in the replacements, changed the jersey color to that red. Boom. Huh.
When I tell you that every other option would have been better, I'm not joking. I really think that anything else could have been a better choice.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Packers are on a little downward streak here, obviously. I actually saw NFL Gameday this one talking about who has a better chance of saving their season, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Obviously, both are on a downward streak. Well, Packers get the Commodores this week, and Brady gets the Panthers this week.
Get right spots.
Get right games. Yeah, easy. Packers -4 here. I'll take that spread. I'm going to take the Packers. I'm not saying they're going to get 100% right and turn it to a contender off this game, but they're gonna work some things out today because it's a tune-up game.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're going with the same.
Also, I looked up the trend. I can't remember the exact numbers, but Rodgers, there's very few times in Rodgers' career where he's lost 2 straight games as a favorite. So I imagine he's going to come out pretty pissed off. I'm a little, believe it or not, I am worried that this Washington team is going to perform way better with Taylor Heineke than they did with Carson Wentz. It's a guy that they're familiar with. It's a guy who's actually taken them to the playoffs before. And he's got familiarity with the system already. It's not like he's got to learn anything new. He knows everything that there is to do. So for me, I'm not making a spread play on this game. I do think the Packers eke one out, but I would not be surprised if this game was a lot closer than people thought it was. And I don't have any stats to back this up, by the way. This is just a gut call, which is why I'm not making a play on it personally. But there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to this Washington team right now with a different QB at the helm. We don't know, was it Carson Wentz holding this team back? Was it the system? Was it the players around? We don't really know because it's the first time we're going to see it. And with the way that Green Bay's defense has been struggling, I think they're going to win this game because they've been struggling against the ground game, and Washington is not a big running team. But I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Heineke is using his legs a lot in this game, scrambling for a decent amount of yardage. There's too many unknowns for me to make a spread play, but I do think that the Packers are in the game.
All right. It's fair enough. I kind of like that. So we got the Bengals and the Falcons, who are playing better football, I think, than anyone expected them to. That said, Bengals are going to beat them.
Yeah.
Falcons are playing better football than expected them to, not defensively. And I think the Bengals are just going to put up points on them, man. I think it's Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon and T. Higgins is just too much for Atlanta. I'll take the Bengals -6.5.
Yeah, I think the Bengals win this game pretty easily. I don't have a spread play on it because the Bengals do struggle a little bit against the run game, and the Falcons are a top 5, top 10 rushing team in the league. And I already have 2 -6.5 spreads, so I didn't really necessarily want to add another one on there. But the fact of the matter is the Falcons have an awful defense, specifically passing defense. And as we know, the Bengals love to throw the ball. They love the 3 wide receiver sets. And I just can't picture Atlanta being able to stop that. Now, I do think Atlanta's going to put up some points of their own. I think the over is probably a good call. But I just don't see –
the over 47.5, by the way.
47.5. I think both teams can score 25 in this game.
I like that.
I think it could also be the Bengals score 31, the Falcons score 20, or something like that. But whatever the case may be, I think the defenses in this game are both at disadvantages. When you look at the teams that they're playing and the styles that they play with, the Falcons are going to be able to run the ball. Bengals are going to be able to throw it. But I think the run game is much harder to sustain over a full game period of time. When you're also, if you're behind at all against Cincy and you're running the ball into the line, the moment they go 3 and out and punt the ball, the Bengals are going to be able to score again. So I'm not going to ask for a 100% success rate from Marcus Mariota in that offense. I think the Bengals could easily end up winning and covering the spread, but I do think they'll win for sure.
Yeah, I'll see that. So Buccaneers and Panthers.
Wash
13-point spread here. I'm not playing 13-point spread. I can see them winning by 13. I don't play double-digit spreads. Like I said, they could easily win by 13. That's just one of my betting things. I try not to play a double-digit.
Yeah, I'm definitely staying away. Call it spite if you want. Tom Brady got me knocked out of my survivor pool last week when there were only 14 people left out of 100-something. I'm still pissed. Couldn't beat Kenny Pickett and the goddamn Steelers. Mitch Trubisky. I don't give a shit who was playing quarterback. I have no faith in that Tampa offense. None. But I have no faith in the Panthers either. So I'm going to stay as far away from that game as possible. I'm sure the Bucs win. I'm sure they play well on offense this time when I don't need them to. But I cannot trust that offense. Not at all.
Yep, I agree on that. Next we got the Colts and the Titans. This was a really hard game to call, honestly, because both these teams I can't seem to figure out what they are week to week.
I love this game.
I'm leaning Titans. I like Vrabel more as a coach. That's kind of where I don't like Tannehill that much this year. I don't like Matt Ryan that much this year. Both teams got great running backs. They both got okay defenses. They're not playing up to what they should be. So I kind of called it the coaching matchup. So I'll lean the Titans here. It's a 2.5-point spread. So I guess I'll take 2.5 because it's a field goal.
Yeah, I can definitely. I agree with you that Mike Vrabel is the better coach. No dispute there. But I want to bring back a couple things about the first time these two teams matched up this year when the Titans won that game. The Titans ran the ball for about 140 yards or so. Derrick Henry destroyed the Colts. One very key player was missing on that Colts defense, and that would be DeForest Buckner, the defensive tackle, the man who loves to stuff the run up the middle. In addition to that, and he's playing today. In addition to that, Jonathan Taylor ran for 40 yards total in that game.
Oh.
Tennessee's run defense is, I believe, 18th in yards per carry allowed. So I don't expect them to be able to hold him to that low of a number again. And Titans defense, to me, is just overperforming. They're 31st in yards per play allowed, 24th in points per play allowed. But for some reason, they're second in third down conversion defense with a stunning mark of 27%. I just don't see how that's very sustainable if their defense is going to continue giving up as many yards as they're giving. And while a lot of people would talk about the Titans coming off a bye week, divisional home favorites coming off of a bye are actually 55, 75, and 1 against the spread. And I think the Colts are kind of being undervalued here. They've won 3 of their last 4 games, even if some of them were stinkers. They put up 34 points last week, which is more than they put up all year. So the offense finally seemed to be clicking, and they were playing against a good defense in Jacksonville. This is probably the Colts. This is their last chance to get the Titans. Obviously, it would be big for them because they would, I believe, tie up the top of the division or at least give themselves close to sole possession. And they've been on an upswing since their bad first couple games. So I actually am going with the Colts money line at plus 122. I think that they win this game to help regain some control of the AFC South. And I don't think that the Tennessee defensive line is able to hold Jonathan Taylor as much. I think DeForest Buckner makes a big difference in stopping Derrick Henry. Uh-oh. Did Steve freeze or did I freeze? Let's check the stream. Did Steve freeze or did I freeze? Let's go to the tape.
Hey, we're back.
We're back. All right. I was wondering if it was me or if it was you or both of us.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both at this point.
Makes sense. I don't have great connection. I'm trying.
Got the Raiders and the Texans.
Ugh.
Is right.
Ugh.
I'm gonna take the Raiders. I don't want to take the Raiders because I don't like the way the Raiders are playing football. But I think they're just more talented than the Texans are.
Yeah.
So I gotta take the Raiders. I'm not touching the spread in this. I got 6.5 here. I'm not playing Raiders spreads. I'm gonna take them to win with the way they're playing football. I ain't taking that fucking spread.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think the Raiders win this game, and I also think I'm not gonna watch a second of it. I think whenever it comes on Red Zone, I'll probably be looking at my phone. I don't care about this game. I don't think there's any value really on either side. I'm not going to take the Raiders offense to beat a team by more than seven. But Houston also is able to keep themselves in games. At the same time, I think Davis Mills is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Lovie Smith is a great defensive head coach, which has shown in their defense being good. Terrible offensive coach, which has shown in their offensive being terrible. I just don't want anything to do with it. Raiders win. Everyone, nothing changes in anyone's lives, regardless of the result.
Yep.
Maybe CJ Stroud.
So you got the Chiefs and the Niners. Chiefs are favored by 1 here. Obviously, McCaffrey just got added to San Fran, but
Oscar.
He's not going to be fully up to speed on the playbook. Is he even gonna? How many snaps is he even gonna get after just getting traded there, like 2-3 days ago?
Yeah, I don't.
So
I'm happy too because my fantasy opponents got C-Mac, so saves me a little trouble.
Yeah, it saves you a little bit for sure. So I'm gonna take the Chiefs here. I'll take the -1 because it's a 1-point spread. I don't think I don't know if the Niners can keep up with the Chiefs on offense. The Chiefs aren't playing their usual offensive self, but they're finding ways. They're winning games. Obviously they didn't last week. The Chiefs are still fucking pretty good. So I'll take the Chiefs here. I'm actually a little surprised that the spread's only 1.
Yeah, there's always that one game during the week where I'm like, this line's too good to be true. I don't get it. Like, I simply don't get it. There's always one line like that, and this is it. Because, listen, I understand that San Francisco is probably a better team than people give them credit for. They're very well coached. They're very injured right now, and when they're fully healthy, yes, they have a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side. The problem is that they're not fully healthy. And it's not like they are this week. They're still hurt. Arik Armstead, defensive tackle, he's out. Jordan Willis, defensive end, he's out. Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle, he's out. Jason Verrett is on the the unable to perform list. He's supposed to come back soon, but we don't know what it is. He's in the court. He's in the secondary. Emmanuel Mosley has had a great year up until 2 weeks ago when he tore his ACL. He's in the secondary. He's out for the year. Azeez Al-Shaair, the inside line, the linebacker, on the IR, out. Travarius Ward, the defensive back, questionable. The backup offensive lineman for Trent Williams, and maybe it's because Trent Williams is back today, but he's still playing hurt. His backup, IR, year. There are so many players on this team that are injured. I'm not calling, like, this is not me saying, like, the 49ers are this, the 49ers are that. The only thing they are is injured. And that's not a detriment to them, but it is going to be a detriment to the result of their games because they're going to play worse. And when you have that many members of your secondary that are injured and you're facing Patrick Mahomes, I don't care if it's a public play. I don't care if it's the most public play of the week, which I'm sure it is. And I don't care that the line has dropped from -3 to -1. I would be kicking myself if I did not take Patrick Mahomes in this spot.
Yeah, I have to take the Chiefs for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah.
So we got the Seahawks and the Chargers at 425, and now I didn't play this bet. I put it in my pools. I didn't actually put money on it. I'm taking the Seahawks here.
Yeah.
Not, like I said, I'm not so confident that I'm putting money on this. The Chargers have not impressed me. Like you said earlier, you got to look at more than the record. Chargers aren't what their record says they are to me.
I agree. And if you look at who they've played, they beat the Broncos by 3 points last week, the Broncos. They beat the Browns by 2, and the only reason they beat the Browns is because the Browns missed the field goal to win the game.
Mm.
They beat the Texans by 10 in a game where they were up 21 and almost blew the lead. And then they beat the Raiders by 5 in week 1. And looking at that now, the Raiders are 1-4. They beat them by 5 points. Like, this has not been a team that's been impressive by any stretch of the word. And now, by the way, their run defense is awful. It's why they almost lost to Cleveland. Kenneth Walker is a good running back. And you know which team has been pounding the rock for like 3 or 4 years now religiously? The Seahawks. They love to run. And Kenneth Walker averaged like 5 yards a carry last week. So, and also Geno Smith has looked like ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't understand. I get that the line's 5 because the Chargers are at home. They're very talented, but they're still, once again, this is a team that is still very injured. Keenan Allen is going to try and play today, but he has not been able to run for the better part of a month. Joey Bosa is still out. Rashawn Slater still out. Josh Palmer, big factor in last week's game, still out. So I'm looking at the weapons for Herbert, both offensively and defensively for the Chargers, and I don't get why it's 5. I think this line should be closer to 3, closer to a field goal for like the home field advantage part, I guess, even though they don't really usually have that with the Chargers. But I like the Seahawks here. I think the Seahawks have an opportunity to win this game outright. I think Geno Smith is still being undervalued, as is that run game. And I understand their defense is awful, so I think the over is probably a decent look. But anytime I'm in a shootout, if you're giving me the team +5 and you're telling me that they're going to compete most of the game in a shootout, I'll take that. So I like the Seahawks plus the 5. I think they can win the game outright.
Yep, that's absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Geno Smith is playing great football. The Seahawks look way better than I thought they would. They look way more competitive than I thought they would be.
I think I had them at 3-14 in my standings predictions. I'm very willing to say I was wrong on that one.
I thought the Seahawks were going to be terrible. They're not. They're a tough team. They're not a great team. They obviously got some flaws there, but Geno Smith is playing great ball. And I don't like the Chargers. I'm going to take the Seahawks. Yeah.
Now here's a question for you. Here's a question. At what point, and I'm not saying it's now because it's still early, but at what point do we start wondering if Russ's success in Seattle was actually a credit to the Seahawks system and not to him?
Well,
because
so it's
look
actually
how well Geno's doing.
So it's actually funny just because I think we forgot to talk about Broncos Jets now that you just said that.
We did. We did.
Yeah, for an obvious reason. Listen, I'm gonna take. I can't believe I can't say these words.
Don't say let's ride. Oh, you're gonna say oh. The Patriots fan.
I'm gonna. That team from New York will beat
which team from New York? There are a couple.
The team from New York that starts with a J.
There you go. That's close enough.
Yeah. We'll beat the Broncos with Brett Ripien. I think. Unless, like you said, we really see that maybe Russ is just cooked. Unless if Brett Ripien goes off today, we got a real conversation.
Listen, for what it's worth, Brett Ripien has one career start. One. He played against the New York Jets. He threw 3 interceptions and won the game because Sam Darnold threw 4.
That is one of the most Jets things I've ever heard.
I was about to say, find me a more Jets statistic. This guy has played once in his life, played awful, and got the win because the Jets played worse.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets in this one. The Broncos offense is terrible. Their defense is great. The Jets offense is better than the Broncos defense. Sorry, it's better than their Broncos offense. The Jets defense is worse than the Broncos defense, but not by as much as they are better than their offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just because of how bad the Broncos offense is. Now you're putting
so bad.
Yeah. And In Russ's defense, I think we're going to find out something today. We're either going to find out if it's Russ that's the problem or if Nathaniel Hackett's just incapable of running an offense. Because if they get worse somehow today without Russ, then it's not Russ. And, like, I'm not saying it's like Russ has still made some mistakes. He should have looked at KJ Hamler wide open in the end zone in that game. Like, he's still having his problems, and the film doesn't lie on that. But, like, if they are even more dysfunctional today than they were with Russ, it's time to start. And I know it's early because he just got hired, but it's seriously time for the Broncos to start considering firing Nathaniel Hackett. I think this is the game that's going to show something like that, because if he can succeed with Rypien, then the Broncos brass will be like, okay, maybe Russ is just washed. Maybe we traded for a washed guy. If Brett Rypien's running this offense correctly and he can, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. I think that it's Nathaniel Hackett that's the problem, and I think that's going to continue to show today. And as long as he is coaching the team, I am betting against them. So besides that, and the fact that the Broncos are terrible at protecting the QB, 28th in QB sack percentage, and the Jets have really solid pass rushers, including Quinnen Williams, I'm going with the Jets, and I'm going with the money line, minus 120.
All right, there we go. And now we got the Steelers and the Dolphins. Tua is expected to make his return after the Dolphins tried to kill him on national television a couple weeks ago. Listen, the Dolphins got their ping pong table situation figured out. Apparently, Tyreek Hill got them a new ping pong table, so they don't have to worry about that anymore.
I feel so bad for Mike McDaniel.
And listen, based on the fact that they got their ping pong table figured out, and the fact that the Steelers don't look very competent.
Do the Steelers have a ping pong table? Do we know?
Huh?
I said, do the Steelers have a ping pong table? This is vital information we need to know.
I don't know, but I do know that Tyreek Hill picked up a custom ping pong table for the Dolphins locker room.
Team chemistry right there.
Yeah, which Mike McDaniel, I do love that. Let's just go with the history. Is Mike McDaniel told the media that Tyreek Hill removed the ping pong table from the locker room because it was a distraction. And he said, that's leadership right there.
And they bought a new one.
Then they talked to Tyreek. He said, nah, it just got dented, so I'm going to get a new one.
And by the way, did you know that right after he said that about Tyreek Hill, about how Tyreek Hill was like, it's a distraction? You know what Tyreek Hill was doing when Mike McDaniel said that? Live streaming video games on Twitch.
Oh.
But yeah, But the funny thing to me is Mike McDaniel so desperately just wants to focus on football, and no one will let him. I don't know if you saw that press conference in the Vikings week where he was like, hey, I know it's Friday. We play on Sunday. What if we talked about the Vikings? And the first question after that was like, okay, so is Tua in a protocol or is he out of protocol? You could see him visibly sigh like, oh, man.
Well, he
want to coach football.
So he's having to deal with what Belichick deals with in the media, except he can't deal with it the same way as Belichick.
Well, I'm sure Belichick has so much experience with this stuff. He probably knows exactly what they're going to ask before they ask it based on how they're looking at him.
Dude, a couple weeks ago, he said, they went to start asking him a question. And, they asked him about something. He goes, I was going to talk in great detail about the injury report with Mac Jones, but since you asked me about something else, we'll leave that.
Yeah. So in that Steelers-Dolphins game, I am going to take the Dolphins.
I'm going to take the Dolphins. I guess I'll take the 7.5.
But I actually do want to talk about the Patriots-Bears game.
I do as well.
Because I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you've said this as well, but whenever Bill Belichick goes on a rant about how good the opposing team is, he slaughters that team. Now, I just got a job at sports radio where I'm cutting and editing press conference clips. So I listened to this press conference. 8 minutes, over 1,000 words. He spoke about every single starting player on the Chicago Bears and how good they were.
Yep.
I think they might win by 40.
So, okay. I'm so glad you just
that.
So
and they have
I got
in that cheat sheet. The Patriots have every single advantage across the board, full sweep.
Yeah. So I got the Patriots -8, no matter who plays. Whether it's Jones is expected to start. By the way, Jones is expected to be back.
Brian Hoyer, I don't care.
Yeah. So the over in this game is set at 40. I am taking the over in this game. And I know that Chicago is not going to score a lot of points.
Interesting. So you're banking on the 40 points.
I am playing money on that 40 points. The last 3 games that the Patriots have played against Chicago. 45 points, 38 points, 27 points. Now, you add that to what you just said, which was a great point. Whenever Belichick talks in that length about how great the bad team that he's about to play is, he destroys them. He absolutely picks them apart. The only reason he's talking about them in that length is because he just diagnosed them for so long in film, and he knows every possible way to exploit them. The other part here is that
what he does. That's what he does.
Is that Chicago Bears defensive lineman Justin Jones had the brilliant idea this week. Did you see this?
No, what did he? I'm just thinking, how did he find a way to piss him off? How?
He got asked this week, what is the first thing that you think of when you hear the name Bill Belichick? And he said, cheater, deflated balls.
Oh, I did see that. And he said he was going to check them.
He's going to be checking the balls during the game, and how he doesn't like Belichick because he likes to play the game with honesty. So here's another thing. Whenever you talk shit about Bill Belichick before you play him,
you lose.
He finds a way to humiliate you.
I bet you runs the ball at Justin Jones every single time.
Yeah, especially if you do it before you play him on national television. He's just going to be like, all right, well, let's just let the world see how bad you are at your job.
Yeah. You think Matt Eberflus went up to Justin Jones after that, was like, hey, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I have to take you off the field now because now you're the target.
He's like, I need to find every single weakness you have right now because otherwise the whole world's going to see it on Monday night, and I don't know what it is.
So and also the Bears players told the media that they don't care who's playing between Zappi and Jones because it's not that different to prepare for either one. So they also decided to give the players.
Yeah, let's not only piss off the coach, let's piss off the team.
They're
not good enough to be doing shit like that. I don't know.
No. And now you factor all that
bulletin board material.
You factor all that in with what I just saw from what I've seen from the Bears lately, and
we haven't even talked about how the teams have played.
They're awful. And once again, a very bad run defense. This is not a good run defense for the Patriots going against the Patriots again. And I can't get over this. I can't talk about this enough. That missed pass to Cole Kmet in the end zone last week.
Listen, I had the Bears. It was Ryan Griffin, I think. I had the Bears, and I was at work because there's a lot of night shifts, with sports radio, and I couldn't keep it together. I started yelling at the screen because I played flag football quarterback, for 6 years. No real tackle football experience. When I tell you, and by the way, I hate when people do this, but for the first time in my life, I actually believe it to be true. I truly believe I could have made that pass with NFL pressure because there wasn't any. He was sitting in the pocket. All he had to do, just a little dink to a wide open man. It's not like it was going to get pick six, wide open. So, I think I could have made that pass. I think a lot of people could have made that pass. I think that pass is harder. I think that pass is harder to miss than it is to make.
I do too. It's solid protection with a wide open guy 2 yards away. You just have to float. It's not even float. Lob.
It doesn't even have to. Yeah, you don't.
No.
It doesn't even have to be leading him. It doesn't have to lead him. He could stop, turn around, wait for it to get to him if it was underthrown, and then walk.
Listen,
he did the one thing you can't do there, which is overthrow him.
You give me 10 tries at making that exact throw in the NFL, probably making it 4 times at least.
That's what I'm saying.
I played defensive line in high school.
And this guy's an NFL quarterback.
I could make that throw. I know I could do that.
Like that. It doesn't even have to be a spiral. It doesn't even have to be it doesn't have to look good. It just has to get there.
Dude, exactly like you said. I have never once said that about a throw in an NFL game. I have never I have to make sure we're clear on this. I have never once.
And I hate when people do that.
Listeners, for the viewers, I've never once in my life said that I could do that. I could make that throw in an NFL game.
I really hate when people are like, I could do better than this professional athlete. I hate when people say that. But the fact of the matter is, in this circumstance, it's really true. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that. It's just so embarrassing to miss that throw. So,
and by the way, I had to do post game on that game. You know what the first thing Justin Fields said was? The first thing Justin Fields said, first of all, he was like, I got to make that pass, obviously. Then he goes, Ryan could have run a little farther.
Oh, God.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my God. So so here's another thing with that 40, that over 40. Justin Fields could probably let he's probably going to hand the Patriots a couple of touchdowns. They're going to turn the ball over against the defense like the Patriots. They're going to turn the ball. The Patriots are going to have good field position all day on a team that they can already score on.
And if there's one thing you don't want to do against Bill Belichick, it's make it easier for him. Teams that have beaten Belichick have done so by either taking his strategies and using them against him or knowing what he's going to come in with and trying to make that specific thing as tough as possible. If you're then going to make things easier and make unforced errors against him, he's going to eat you alive.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who's
destroyed. So I'm playing Patriots -8, and I'm playing the over 40 because I think the Patriots will roll over this team. The Patriots are putting up over 30.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Patriots -8, and it's going to be a multiple unit play. I really think it's going to be at least 2 units. Once again, yards per play, yards per game, points per game, sacks, turnovers, all Patriots. Then you add the Belichick stuff. Then you add the bulletin board materials that the Bears have given them. Then you add the home field advantage. Have to do it.
Yeah. Oh, and I do have to point out that Pro Football Talk thought that the Patriots were 2-3 heading into this game, and that the game was in Illinois.
Yeah, Florio.
Yep. Yeah. Pro Football Talk had that article up this morning talking about how Mac Jones would be making a trip to Illinois to play. 2-3 Patriots would be traveling to Illinois to play the Chicago.
It's funny that all of these pages that have pro football in front of their Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Talk seem to be the worst. I don't know.
Meanwhile, me in my backyard here smoking cigarettes, I knew that the 3-3 Patriots were playing at home in Foxborough.
There you go.
Yeah. So maybe listen to me and stuff. Anyway, that's my media sucks portion of the show. I think that's a good way to end it off, Sam. Thank you for coming on. I know we ran a little bit late because of technical difficulties.
No worries.
So, why don't you tell the folks so they
real
can
quick
live on your show in 5 minutes?
I was about to say, we are going to be live in about 10 minutes on StreamYard as well from our Source Podcast Twitter account at Source Podcast 11. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, the Source Podcast with Joe Goddard and Sam Hiller. And you can find us at www.sourcepodcast.com. And you will hear all of that again in about 10 minutes when we kick off our next stream. Steve, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to
Yep.
come on here and talk football with you.
Yeah, always great having you on, buddy. And folks, as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next week, same time, same place.